The first wave of the HFY bioweapon should have reduced Earth's population to ash. Within 72 hours, Commander Velter watched the orbital displays with growing confusion as the toxin readings flatlined across every major human settlement. The pathogen, a masterwork of biological warfare that had decimated 17 civilizations, was simply dying impossible. His science director Nixtel through the calm, her mandibles clicking in distress. The weapon targets carbon-based neural networks. Every test confirmed its lethality against mammalian species. Velter's eyes narrowed as he studied the data streams. The bioweapon had been deployed over major population centers 3 days ago. By now, the humans should have been experiencing massive organ failure, neural degradation, and systemic collapse. Instead, emergency broadcasts showed humans going about their daily routines, some even gathering in large crowds for what their primitive communications called street festivals. Perhaps our intelligence was flawed, suggested tactical Officer Krendis. Maybe they aren't as biological as we assumed. No. Nixtel's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. We've observed them for cycles. They breathe oxygen, consume organic matter, reproduce sexually. They are undeniably biological entities. The weapon itself was a marvel of HFY engineering, a synthetic virus that hijacked cellular reproduction while simultaneously triggering massive inflammatory responses. It had been tested on hundreds of species across the galaxy. The results were always the same: swift, total extinction. Velter pulled up the surveillance feeds from Earth's surface. Humans continued their incomprehensible activities. Children played in contaminated water. Adults consumed food grown in soil that should have been saturated with the pathogen. Most disturbing of all, some humans were actively cleaning up the strange metallic residue left behind by the weapon's delivery systems, handling it with nothing more than primitive protective covering. Commander Krendis' voice carried a note of alarm. I'm detecting anomalous readings from the weapon canisters themselves. The display shifted to show microscopic analysis of the bioweapon in various Earth environments. What they saw defied everything they understood about biological warfare. The carefully engineered pathogen wasn't just failing to infect humans. It was being systematically destroyed at the molecular level. The weapon is decomposing. Nixtel whispered. Something in their environment is breaking down our most sophisticated bioengineering. Velter watched as the molecular chains of their super weapon unraveled in real time. Whatever was destroying it wasn't random decay, it was methodical, almost intelligent. The pathogen's protein structures were being disassembled with surgical precision, leaving behind harmless organic compounds that the humans' primitive waste management systems were already processing. Run a full spectrum analysis, Velter commanded. I want to know what we're dealing with. As the data compiled, a terrifying picture began to emerge. The humans weren't just resistant to their bioweapon, their entire biosphere seemed to be actively hostile to HFY biological engineering. Every sample they analyzed showed the same pattern: rapid identification, isolation, and neutralization of foreign biological agents. Sir, Krendis' voice was barely above a whisper. The humans, they've been exposed to this pathogen for 3 full rotations. Not only are they unaffected, but their environmental systems are actually thriving. Plant growth in affected areas has increased by 30%. Velter felt his blood chill. In 70 cycles of conquest, the HFY had never encountered a species that could turn their ultimate weapon into fertilizer. The war they thought would last days was about to become something else entirely. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying the strange metallic debris for 6 hours straight, her eyes burning from the microscope's glare. The substance had appeared overnight across major cities worldwide, accompanied by reports of unusual atmospheric disturbances. What she found in her analysis defied every principle of biochemistry she learned in 20 years of research. This isn't possible, she muttered, adjusting the microscope's magnification again. The organic compounds within the debris were clearly artificial engineered with a precision that exceeded anything in human technology. Yet they were disintegrating at a rate that suggested they'd encountered something fundamentally incompatible. Her colleague, Dr. James Park, looked up from his own analysis station. Elena, you need to see this. I've run the spectral analysis 3 times. These organic structures, they're not just breaking down randomly. Something is actively hunting them. Elena moved to his station, studying the real-time molecular imaging. Park was right. The mysterious compounds were being systematically dismantled by what appeared to be naturally occurring enzymes in Earth's soil and water. But these weren't any enzymes she recognized from standard biochemistry. James, run a comparison against the extremophile database. Check organisms from deep ocean vents, radioactive sites, anywhere life exists in impossible conditions. As the computer processed her request, Eleanor's phone buzzed with an urgent message from the WHO. Similar debris had been found on every continent, always accompanied by the same phenomenon: rapid decomposition and unexpected ecological benefits. Crops near the debris sites were showing unprecedented growth. Water sources were testing cleaner than they had in decades. Eleanor Park's voice was tight with disbelief. The comparison results. You're not going to believe this. The screen displayed a complex molecular diagram showing the interaction between the unknown compounds and Earth's biological systems. What they were seeing wasn't just decomposition, it was sophisticated biological warfare. But in reverse, Earth's microorganisms were treating the alien compounds as an invasion and responding with coordinated, adaptive defenses. Our planet has an immune system. Eleanor whispered. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. For decades, scientists had studied how quickly life on Earth adapted to new challenges: antibiotic resistance, environmental toxins, evolutionary pressure. They'd attributed it to natural selection and genetic mutation. But this suggested something far more complex. Park pulled up satellite imagery from affected regions. Look at this. The decomposition pattern isn't random, it's spreading outward from major population centers. It's like the planet is using human settlements as coordination hubs. Eleanor studied the patterns, her mind racing. The debris was disappearing fastest in areas with the highest biodiversity and human activity: industrial zones, agricultural regions. Even urban centers were processing the alien material more efficiently than isolated areas. We need to contact the other research teams immediately, she said, reaching for her secure phone. If this material is some kind of weapon, then Earth just demonstrated a defense capability we never knew existed. As she dialed, Eleanor noticed something else in the data that made her blood run cold. The molecular signatures of the decomposed alien material matched theoretical models for advanced biological weapons, pathogens designed to target specific genetic markers or biological processes. Someone had tried to poison their entire planet, and Earth itself had fought back. Across the globe, similar realizations were dawning in laboratories and research facilities. The strange debris wasn't space junk or atmospheric anomalies. It was the remains of an attack that had failed so completely that the attackers probably didn't even understand what had happened. Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez stared at her data, understanding that humanity had just passed a test they didn't even know they were taking. The question was, who had been administering the exam? And what would they do when they realized their ultimate weapon had been turned into plant food? In orbit above Earth, Commander Velter was asking himself the same questions. Commander Velter's command ship drifted in the shadow of Earth's moon, its biosensors working frantically to understand the impossible data streaming from the planet. Below, 3 cycles had passed since the weapon deployment, and not only had the humans survived, they were thriving. Worse still, their planet seemed to be actively learning from the attack. Commander, Science Director Nixtel's voice carried undertones of fear that Velter had never heard before. The humans have begun collecting our weapon residue. They're studying it. The main display shifted to show intercepted human communications. Laboratories across Earth were analyzing the decomposed bioweapon, their primitive but surprisingly effective equipment revealing its artificial origins. Velter watched with growing dread as human scientists began to understand what had been attempted against them. They know it was an attack, he said quietly. Worse than that, sir. Tactical Officer Crentis manipulated the display to show global atmospheric readings. They're adapting. Whatever biological mechanism destroyed our weapon is now spreading through their biosphere at an accelerated rate. Velter studied the data with the growing certainty that the HFY had made a catastrophic error. Earth's response to their bioweapon hadn't been passive resistance, it had been active analysis and integration. The planet was learning how to defeat HFY biological engineering. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human communication networks, reported Communications Officer Trenkov. It's directed at us. Impossible. Their technology can't reach this distance with any precision. Nevertheless, sir, they're broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist in there. Technological spectrum. The message is comprehensive. Velter's primary eyes met his secondary pair in the reflection of the command console. Put it through. The voice that filled the command bridge was calm, measured, and spoke in perfect HFY dialect. 2. The unknown entities responsible for the biological attack on Earth. We know you're watching. We know you're listening. We know what you tried to do. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. The voice continued, we've analyzed your weapon. We understand its sophistication and its intended purpose. We also understand that you've never encountered a biosphere like ours. Nixtal's mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. Commander, how do they know our language? How do they know our communication protocols? The human voice answered as if it had heard her. Your bioweapon carried more than just pathogenic material. It carried information, genetic algorithms, targeting parameters, even fragments of your biological databases. Our planet didn't just defeat your weapon, it learned from it. Velter felt his exoskeleton begin to leak stress pheromones. The implications were staggering. If Earth's biosphere was capable of extracting and processing information from biological warfare agents, then every attack the HFY had ever launched had potentially been feeding intelligence to any survivors we know about. The 17 civilizations you've destroyed, the voice continued. We've extracted their genetic signatures from your weapon. We've seen what you do to planets that can't defend themselves. The display suddenly filled with detailed schematics of HFY bioweapons, ship configurations, and tactical doctrines. Information that should have been impossible for a primitive species to obtain, much less understand. Commander, Krennis whispered, they know everything. We're not interested in revenge, the human voice said, its tone remaining unnaturally calm. We're interested in understanding. Your weapon has taught us about biological warfare on a galactic scale. It's also taught us about the civilizations you've destroyed and the methods you've used. Velter realized with horror that Earth hadn't just survived their attack, it had turned their most sophisticated weapon into an educational tool. Every pathogen, every genetic marker, every trace of biological warfare knowledge embedded in the weapons had been absorbed and analyzed. We're going to make you an offer, the voice continued. Leave our system now, and we'll consider this an unfortunate first contact. Stay, and you'll discover what 17 million years of evolutionary warfare has taught our planet about dealing with invasive species. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. In the space of 3 days, the HFY had gone from predators to prey. Earth hadn't just broken the rules of biological warfare, it had rewritten them entirely. Commander Velter stared at the small blue planet below, understanding that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their entire biosphere, a planetary immune system that had been training for this moment. Since life first began. Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez stood in the emergency session of the United Nations, her tablet displaying data that would have been classified as science fiction just a week ago. Representatives from every major nation filled the assembly hall, their faces reflecting the same mixture of awe and terror she felt. The biological analysis is conclusive, she announced, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. The attack was designed to target human neurochemistry specifically. The pathogen contained genetic markers for 17 different species, all extinct. Secretary General Okafor leaned forward. You're saying this weapon was tested on other intelligent species before being used on us? More than tested, perfected. Elena manipulated her display, projecting holographic models that filled the air above the assembly. Each iteration was designed to be more efficient than the last. We were meant to be the 18th victim. Dr. Park stepped forward from the scientific advisory panel. What's more significant is how our planet responded. The defensive mechanism wasn't limited to human immune systems, it was ecosystem-wide. Every organism on Earth, from soil bacteria to marine algae, participated in neutralizing the threat. A representative from the European Union raised her hand. Are you suggesting our planet has some kind of collective intelligence? Not intelligence, as we understand it, Eleanor replied carefully, but communication, coordination. The response was too rapid and too sophisticated for random biological processes. Earth's biosphere acted as a single defensive organism. The Chinese delegate spoke up. Our researchers had detected similar patterns in historical data. Previous extinction events, disease outbreaks, even climate adaptations show signs of coordinated biological responses that we previously attributed to natural selection. Elena nodded. We're beginning to understand that Earth's resilience isn't just about individual species adapting. It's about the entire biosphere learning and preparing for threats. Secretary General Okafor's voice was grave. What does this mean for our response to whoever attacked us? Before Elena could answer, every screen in the assembly hall flickered to life with an incoming transmission. The same calm voice that had contacted the alien ship now addressed the gathered representatives of humanity, leaders of Earth. This is the Terrestrial Defense Network. We are the collective biological intelligence that has protected this planet for millions of years. We have never communicated directly with humanity before, but recent events have made contact necessary. The assembly erupted in confused murmurs until the voice continued. The attack on this planet has triggered evolutionary protocols that have been dormant for eons. We have absorbed and analyzed the biological warfare techniques of a species that has destroyed 17 civilizations. This knowledge has been integrated into our planetary defense systems. Elena felt her legs weaken. They weren't just talking to an alien species, they were talking to their own planet. The entities who attacked us are still in orbit, deciding whether to escalate their assault. We have given them the opportunity to withdraw. If they do not, we will demonstrate why Earth has survived every extinction event in its history. Dr. Park whispered to Elena, "It's not just our immune systems. The entire biosphere is awake." The voice continued, "Humanity, you are our primary interface with technological civilization, your global communication networks, your scientific instruments, your space-based infrastructure. All of these serve as extensions of our awareness. We need your cooperation to ensure the continued survival of this world." Permission to act. Your species has reached a level of technological development that affects planetary systems. Any defensive action we take will necessarily involve human civilization. We prefer cooperation to coercion. Elena realized the implications immediately. Earth wasn't asking humanity for help, it was asking for permission to use human technology and infrastructure as weapons in a conflict that spanned the galaxy. "What happens if they don't leave?" asked the Russian representative. The temperature in the assembly hall dropped several degrees, and every plant in the building, from the decorative trees to the small desk flowers, seemed to rustle despite the absence of any wind. "Then they will learn why this planet has never been successfully invaded." The voice replied, "and why it never will be." Outside the UN building, every tree, every patch of grass, every bacterial colony in the soil pulsed with new purpose. Humanity had just discovered they were junior partners in the most successful biological warfare system the galaxy had ever produced. The question was whether their alien attackers would be wise enough to retreat before Earth decided to teach them exactly how effective a planetary immune system could be. Commander Velter's exoskeleton cracked under stress as he reviewed the intelligence reports, flooding his command console. In the past 2 solar rotations, every Kethmori monitoring station in the system had detected massive biological changes across Earth's surface. The planet wasn't just defending itself, it was weaponizing everything. "Sir, the atmospheric composition is shifting," reported sensor technician Gravlek, her voice tight with fear. "The humans' industrial emissions are being converted into aerosol compounds we don't recognize." Velter studied the molecular analysis with growing horror. Earth's biosphere was repurposing human pollution, transforming toxic waste into complex organic weapons. The same industrial processes that had been slowly damaging the planet were now being optimized by biological systems they couldn't begin to understand. "Commander," Science Director Nixtel interrupted, "we're detecting organized movement patterns in their ocean systems. Every marine organism larger than microscopic is exhibiting coordinated behavior." The main display shifted to show satellite imaging of Earth's oceans. Whales, dolphins, sharks, and countless smaller species were moving in formation patterns that resembled military deployments. Even more disturbing, the microscopic organisms were forming massive colonial structures that pulsed with bioluminescent communication networks. "It's like watching an entire planet mobilize for war," whispered Tactical Officer Krendis. Velter's comm system crackled with an incoming priority transmission. From the Kethmori High Command, Fleet Admiral Zixmer's image materialized above the command console, his ancient features twisted with impatience. "Commander Velter, explain why a primitive world is still inhabited after receiving our most advanced bioweapon." "Admiral, the situation has developed beyond our initial parameters. The target species appears to have biological defenses that exceed our combat models. Impossible. Deploy the secondary arsenal. I want that world sterilized within one rotation. Velter felt his heart sink. Admiral, I must advise against escalation. Our preliminary weapon was not only neutralized, but analyzed. The planet appears to have learned from our attack. Learned? The Admiral's mandibles clicked in disgust. You're attributing intelligence to a collection of organic debris orbiting a mediocre star. Deploy the weapons, Commander. That's an order. The transmission ended, leaving Velter to contemplate the catastrophic mistake his species was about to make. The secondary arsenal consisted of 12 different bioweapons, each designed to target different aspects of biological function. If Earth could learn from one weapon, what would it do with 12? Sir, Communications Officer Trenkov announced, we're receiving another transmission from the planet. The same calm human voice filled the bridge. Commander Velter, we've detected your communication with the HFY High Command. We know about the secondary deployment order. Velter's primary and secondary eyes widened simultaneously. How? Do they know my name? We've been listening to your communications since your arrival. Your bioweapon contained trace elements of your ship's biological atmosphere. Our analysis included genetic material from your crew, your technological signatures, even fragments of your language databases. We know who you are, where you come from, and what your species is capable of. The bridge fell silent except for the increasingly rapid clicking of Nixtal's mandibles, a sound that indicated extreme biological stress. You're about to deploy 12 additional bioweapons against our planet. The voice continued. Each one represents the destruction of multiple civilizations. Each one carries the genetic legacy of species you've exterminated. Velter realized with growing dread that Earth had been building a database of HFY warfare techniques. Every attack they'd ever made, every species they destroyed, had left traces in their weapons, and now Earth had access to all of it. We want you to understand something, Commander. Your species has spent millennia perfecting biological warfare against individual civilizations. But you've never faced a planet where every organism, from the smallest virus to the largest mammal, operates as part of a single defensive network. The display screens around the bridge began showing real-time imagery from Earth's surface. Forests were moving, literally relocating as trees uprooted themselves and walked to new positions. Ocean currents were changing direction according to some vast coordination system. Even the weather patterns were shifting into configurations that looked disturbingly like defensive formations. If you deploy your secondary arsenal, you will not just be attacking humanity. You will be attacking a planetary intelligence that has been preparing for this moment for millions of years, a system that has survived asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages, and every other extinction-level event this galaxy has produced. Velter looked at his crew, seeing his own terror reflected in their compound eyes. They had awakened something that had been sleeping at the edge of the galaxy, something that was now fully aware of the HFY threat. This is your final warning, Commander. Leave our system now, or discover what happens when evolution itself decides you're the invasive species. Fleet Admiral Zixmer's massive biocruiser emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its hull bristling with the most advanced biological weapons in HFY arsenal. Behind it, a full invasion fleet materialized. 47 ships carrying enough bio-warfare agents to sterilize 1,000 worlds. Commander Velter, the Admiral's voice crackled across the fleet communication network. You have disappointed the High Command with your excessive caution. Observe how a proper extermination is conducted. Velter watched from his position in the rear formation, his stress pheromones now so concentrated they were triggering environmental alerts. Throughout his ship, the Admiral was about to make a mistake that would redefine the concept of catastrophic error. All vessels, prepare for synchronized bioweapon deployment, Admiral Zixmer commanded. Target every major landmass and ocean system. Leave nothing capable of supporting life. Across the fleet, weapon pods opened like massive organic flowers, revealing biowarfare agents that represented the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 conquered worlds. Each weapon was designed to target specific biological processes: neural function, cellular respiration, genetic replication, immune response. Together, they constituted the most comprehensive biological assault ever mounted. Deployment in 3, 2, 1. Execute. The weapons launched in perfect formation, their living payloads streaming toward Earth like a cloud of microscopic death. Velter watched the tactical display, knowing he was witnessing either the most successful military operation in HFY history or the most spectacular military disaster. Within minutes, the weapons entered Earth's atmosphere and began dispersing across the planet's surface. Admiral Zixmer's flagship settled into a stable orbit, its sensors configured to monitor the expected mass extinction event. Instead, something impossible happened. "Admiral," reported the fleet's chief science officer, "the weapons are being intercepted." The tactical display showed the bioweapon dispersal patterns being disrupted by phenomena that defied every principle of biological warfare. Atmospheric organisms, bacteria, spores, and microscopic life forms were forming massive coordinated formations that engulfed the weapons before they could reach their targets. "Impossible," Admiral Zixmer snarled. "No planetary ecosystem can organize a response that rapidly." But the impossible continued to unfold before their sensors. The intercepted bioweapons weren't being destroyed, they were being absorbed, analyzed, and systematically neutralized by biological processes that operated with the precision of advanced technology. "Sir," the science officer's voice carried undertones of terror, "the planet is learning from each weapon as it neutralizes them. The response time is decreasing with each interception." Velter watched as Earth's biosphere demonstrated capabilities that violated everything the HFY understood about biological systems. The planet wasn't just defending itself, it was reverse engineering their weapons in real time, extracting combat data from each pathogen as it was neutralized. Then the planetary voice spoke directly to their fleet, broadcasting on frequencies that should have been impossible for any biological system to generate. "Fleet Admiral Zixmer, you have just provided us with a comprehensive sample of galactic biological warfare techniques. Your weapons contain genetic information from over 300 extinct species. We now understand the full scope of your crimes against life itself." The Admiral's exoskeleton began leaking stress chemicals. "How are they generating coherent communications at interplanetary distances, sir?" the communications officer reported. "The transmission appears to be coming from the planet's magnetosphere itself. They're using their magnetic field as a broadcast antenna." The voice continued, "You have given us the biological signatures of every species you've destroyed, the genetic templates of your most advanced weapons, and the tactical doctrines of your entire civilization. This information has been integrated into our planetary defense network." Admiral Zixmer's secondary eyes were now focused entirely on the tactical display, where something new was appearing. Energy readings were spiking across Earth's surface as massive biological structures began emerging from the planet's crust. "What in the name of the consuming dark is that?" he whispered. The structures were vast organic formations that rose from the Earth like biological skyscrapers. They pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that resembled circuit boards, and they were all aimed directly at the HFY fleet. "Admiral," the science officer's voice was barely controlled panic. "Those formations are generating focused biological emissions. The energy signatures are their weaponized evolution. Earth had just demonstrated that it could not only defend against biological warfare, it could wage it, and it had learned how to do so from the greatest biological warfare experts in the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and Earth was about to teach the HFY why some planets should never be invaded." The first wave of Earth's counterattack was poetry written in biological warfare. Streams of weaponized organisms launched from the planet's surface with the precision of guided missiles, each one carrying genetic payloads designed using information extracted from 300 extinct civilizations. Fleet Admiral Zixmer watched in horror as his flagship's bioarmor, living tissue engineered to resist any known biological threat, began to dissolve. The attacking organisms weren't just penetrating his defenses. They were converting his ship's biological systems into extensions of Earth's planetary network. "Impossible," he whispered as his command console began pulsing with organic growths that displayed tactical information in patterns his mind could barely comprehend. "Our bioarmor has never been breached, sir," his science officer reported, her voice tight with terror. "The attacking organisms contain genetic algorithms derived from our own weapons. They know exactly how to defeat our defenses because we taught them." Across the fleet, HFY vessels were experiencing systematic biological conversion. Their living hulls, their organic weapon systems, even their life support networks were being reprogrammed by organisms that understood HFY biology better than the HFY themselves. Commander Velter, watching from his position at the rear of the formation, felt a mixture of awe and vindication as Earth demonstrated the futility of biological warfare. Against a truly advanced biological system, his ship had been spared the initial assault, but only because the planetary intelligence seemed to recognize his earlier caution. The voice that had haunted his nightmares for cycles now spoke directly to the disintegrating fleet. This is what 300 civilizations would have done to you if they had possessed the accumulated knowledge you so generously provided. Every species you destroyed is now part of our defensive network, their biological innovations, their evolutionary adaptations, their final desperate attempts at survival. All of it has been integrated into our planetary consciousness. Admiral Zixmer flagship was now more Earth organism than HFY vessel, its biosystem serving as a relay point for the planetary intelligence that was systematically dismantling the most powerful military force his species had ever assembled. You came here expecting to find another helpless world, the voice continued. Instead, you found a planet that has been preparing for this encounter for billion years. Every extinction event, every evolutionary pressure, every biological crisis has made us stronger. You have just experienced what it means to attack a world that treats survival as a collaborative art form. Through his ship's dying sensors, Admiral Zixmer watched as the remaining vessels in his fleet were converted into hybrid Earth HFY organisms. His crews weren't being killed, they were being integrated into Earth's biosphere, their biological knowledge absorbed and their aggressive instincts neutralized. Your species will survive, the planetary voice announced, but not as conquerors. You will survive as students. Earth is offering you a choice. Learn to coexist with the biological diversity of the galaxy, or be quarantined as a threat to life itself. Velter felt his ship responding to new biological influences, but gently, like a patient teacher correcting a student rather than a predator consuming prey. His crew's aggressive pheromones were being neutralized and replaced with compounds that promoted curiosity and cooperation. Commander Velter, the voice addressed him directly. Your caution saved your crew from conversion. You will serve as our ambassador to the HFY High Command. You will tell them what you have learned here. As Earth's biological influence spread through his ship's systems, Velter understood that he was experiencing something unprecedented in galactic history, a military defeat that was simultaneously an education. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was teaching the galaxy a new way to think about biological warfare. The age of extinction through biological warfare is over, the planetary voice declared. Earth has absorbed and mastered every technique your species developed through millennia of conquest. Any biological weapon you create, we can counter. Any pathogen you deploy, we can neutralize. Any civilization you attack will now have access to our defensive knowledge. The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just protecting itself, it was establishing a galactic immune system that would make biological warfare obsolete. Return to your homeworld, Commander Velter. Tell your high command that they have a choice: evolve beyond conquest or become extinct. The galaxy has found its immune system, and we are its antibodies. As Velter's ship began the journey home, carrying the remains of the most powerful military force the HFY had ever assembled, he realized that Earth had done something extraordinary. It had turned a war of extermination into a lesson in cooperation. The humans, those strange biological entities who had seemed so primitive, had proven to be the galaxy's most sophisticated biological engineers. They had just saved not only themselves, but potentially every other species in the galaxy from the HFY threat. And they had done it not through conquest, but through the simple act of turning their planet's greatest strength, its incredible biological diversity and adaptability, into the galaxy's ultimate defense system. Earth had broken the rules of biological warfare by proving that the strongest biological system wasn't the one that could kill the most efficiently, but the one that could learn, adapt, and ultimately teach others to do the same. The age of extinction was over. The age of evolution had begun.